Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Jack and Joe show. Joe Sansom alongside me, and today we're actually going to talk about some actual football.
I can't wait. It's felt like such a long gap since our last game. Doesn't help that the last game, or two games in fact, were crap as well.
Mm.
So, very happy that the international break is done. Enjoyed watching some of the World Cup qualifiers, but excited for the real action now.
Here we go. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a hat and I look like I'm about to take your McDonald's order, my hair is just all over the place today. It's just when you just wake up and you got a bad hair day and you can't really fix it. We're both going to get our haircuts today, as we discussed before we came live.
Yes.
And so yeah, that'll be sorted. Whatever. Let's get into the action. Let's actually start by saying congratulations to Anthony Robinson for qualifying for the
Yes.
World Cup. Last night they did lose to Qatar, and the draw, of course, is tomorrow. Very excited to watch the World Cup draw. And let's just talk about Kieran Maguire. Brilliant, brilliant podcast. If you don't listen to it, The Price of Football. He published, or he, analysed our accounts of 2020, 2021. And Joe, well, the highlight, well, not the highlight, the headline is that we've lost £93 million that year. Which basically, when you read through the accounts, you read through the thread, it makes you very grateful for the amount of money that Shahid Khan pumps into the club. I read something yesterday that even during the pandemic, his wealth went up by about, it was either 10% or 40%. I think it was 10%, which is ridiculous. I think
Yeah.
he's now worth £10 billion. But it's scary numbers. It's very much like, getting to the Premier League isn't going to solve all our problems. Even maybe staying in the Premier League isn't going to save all our financial problems. It'll make us very happy as fans. But Joe, what did you think of it? And we'll just touch on it briefly before QPR.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to the podcast, and I was listening to Sammy, Jack, and Peter's take on it, and I have to say I agree with Sammy where I felt a little bit just no real reaction when I first read it because I've become used to it over the last few years in terms of since that 2018-19 season and the big spending that we had and the subsequent relegation and everything that's happened since then. I've become a bit immune to having a reaction to it, which isn't good. That's not good news. I mean, um, I'm not going to pretend that I understand the intricacies and where we should be. When you look at the fact that there has been a pandemic, we have just been relegated. I feel like losses are expected, but I think it's the manner of them and some of the fees for transfers, like I just said, from 18-19, still chipping away. That summer has really had an impact, but as you say, we are lucky that we do have an owner that continues to pump in the money to try and rectify this. But what we now need is we really need to stabilise in the Premier League because what would be a bit of a disaster is if we were to go up, come back down after spending quite heavily again, more losses, etc. Would the Khans even want to stay at that point after we've been a bit up and down? It's just one of these situations where I don't think we're in deep trouble as a result of it or anything like that. But I feel like we need to recognise that if we had an owner that wasn't pumping in as much money as he is, and I'm very grateful for it, we would be in quite a bit of trouble. So
We would be.
I am conscious that, this is not good news for the club, but I don't think it'll have a big effect on us currently. I don't think it'll have a big effect if and when we go up to the Premier League in terms of our spending in the summer. Obviously, might mean we can't go crazy like we did in 2018-19, but I would expect us not to anyway. But yeah, what did you make of it?
I think that I listen to Kieran Maguire and his podcast every week, and they always say things about an owner is only one bad decision away from ruining your football club. He could lose interest, or they could just sell up. And let's look at Derby County, who last night had a very, very worrying article come out by John Percy from the Telegraph. I can't remember. Yeah, Telegraph, I think. And he basically said that they are weeks away from liquidation. And this is due to a decision that Mel Morris made to risk it all by trying to get to the Premier League. And of course, they got to the playoff final, the playoff semi-finals. You know the Derby story. And they didn't get there. And they are now paying that price. We're lucky that we get an owner when we go down. We go, right, we want to go straight back up. And it really does actually put into context how big, I know you don't want to give that man credit, but how big that win against Brentford was. Because if we hadn't gone up, we would have been absolutely screwed financially. We got the money for going up. We got the Premier League money, even for finishing 18th. You can finish bottom of the Premier League and you still get over £100 million in broadcast money, which is huge. And then, of course, subsequently, you get parachute payments, which, is a different issue. We can get into it. But the bottom line is, I tweeted yesterday how grateful I was for Shahid Khan. Some fans didn't really understand the tweet and saying, well, what about the £1,000? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that without his money, we would be in a terribly dire situation. And his continuous investment into Fulham is basically keeping us afloat and keeping us in with a shot of the Premier League and keeping us in with a shot of sustainability. And that is all that fans want. And I'm sure that's all Shahid Khan wants. But yeah, also worth noting, Preston fans having to travel down to Craven Cottage on a Tuesday night. I actually thought for a second that the EFL chose to move that fixture. It was actually Fulham's request to choose. So actually, I can sort of feel for the fans. But then again, we're going to Middlesbrough next Wednesday. That was 30 quid. Got to go via Leicester to get a lift up to Middlesbrough. I mean, it's not easy for us fans. It's going to be a tricky couple of weeks because there's a lot of fixtures with a lot of travel, and Sky have come in with Easter as well. We've got to go to Derby at 8 o'clock. I know Derby's not a million miles away, but it's still annoying. And yet again, we still have to have that question, Joe. The broadcasters, they always preach about, the fans this, the fans that, but actually, the broadcasters shaft the fans because we're the ones who have to go to Middlesbrough midweek or Derby at 8 o'clock on a Good Friday. It's just a bit hypocritical, don't you think?
Is a complete joke, because if you look at the Derby decision to move that game to the 8 p.m, it's quite obvious why they've done it. They've done it so that all the teams below us play before, and then it could be the game that seals promotion. And they want to have that on TV, and they want to have that later in the day, so there's a bigger chance that's possible. I understand that, but I also think the decision for that Derby game was meant to be made a week before it was. They waited for the Nottingham Forest and Middlesbrough FA Cup results clearly to see if they would be playing that weekend. They both lost, so they're not. Was that decision then made on the Sunday, the earliest it possibly could have been? No, they waited a few more days. And in those days, the prices of trains went up, the prices of coaches went up. It is a joke. And I do feel for the Preston fans for that game in particular, when you see that Fulham and Preston agreed for it to be pushed back a day. If you're going to agree for a game to be moved from a bank holiday Monday at 3 p.m, when everyone's probably already booked their travel because we thought the dates were finalised, and no one on any website said that they were still subject to change. Fulham, Preston, Sky, EFL, no one. You've got to subsidise the cost of the tickets, because otherwise no one's going to go. I mean, I feel for them. Every fan, I feel like, is in a similar position. Like you just said, the Middlesbrough tickets, very pricey, just under the £35 mark that Preston fans would have to pay. But it's just crazy. And Dom said it to us yesterday, didn't he, in the message? He was like, following Fulham away is cheaper in the Premier League.
It is.
And that is, I know there's more games, but if there was the same amount of games, it would still be cheaper in the Premier League. And that's crazy to me. That shouldn't be how football is.
I don't know what about this season is. I've spent so much money. Like there's been so many northern aways where the trains are, and that's the thing. The train prices have definitely gone up by a small percentage. But anyway, let's get on to QPR. I mean, we could talk about this all day, but we're here for QPR. We're playing Queen's Park Rangers at 3 o'clock on Saturday, and it's a massive game, not only for us, but for them. If they win, I think they could maybe sneak into the playoffs, depending on other results. There's a lot of big games this weekend. And if we win, I think we're one step closer to promotion. There is a scenario in which we can go up at Borough. Look at Twitter, Fulhamish Twitter. We're not going to go into it now. Let me ask you, how do you see this game going? I mean, we haven't played QPR in front of fans. At Loftus Road, Prince Foundation Stadium. Sorry, since it must have been 2-0?
Must have been
Rory Font?
that 2-1. They scored right at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you see it
Um,
going?
I think it'll be feisty. I don't know if you've seen, but they've sold out. Someone said, I haven't checked this, so this might be completely wrong. They've sold out a Loftus Road for the first time since 2013,
Oh my God.
according to Transfer Market, which is just shows what an absolutely gargantuan football club we are. But it is a big game for them as well. Like you said, it almost feels like one of their last chances of putting together a run for the playoffs. Their form has really tailed off, other than that win over Luton a couple of weeks ago, which, if you watch the game, I don't think the scoreline reflected the game.
No.
You've had Peterborough going to the Kine Prince most recently and coming away with a 3-1 win. That's Peterborough with the worst away form in the division. They've had a break since then. We have a slight advantage compared to the fixture earlier in the season in that Chris Willock, who I think is one of their brighter players and was certainly one of their brighter players that day, is injured. Obviously, don't wish that on anyone, but he is out, and it has an advantage for us. I think it will be quite an attacking game from both sides. I remember the game earlier in the season, until Mitrovic made it 2-1, that second half was pretty even, Stevens. We were both going forward with intent to try and win the game, and I think it'll be a bit like that. But I feel like every time we've had a setback this season, we've come back quite strongly, and I think that they'll be determined to seal promotion as soon as possible. I think they'll be determined to get a win after 2 games without one, which for our standards this season is quite a long time. And I'm expecting a Fulham win.
I think that Fulham have got to be careful with this game. There's got to be some sort of element of control about this game. It could turn into a feisty game where, of course, QPR are battling for their lives to try and get into the playoffs, and we are sort of, I'd say, well, are we battling to get into? I suppose we're almost there, so we can sort of take the approach of let's control the game, let's play our football, and we'll let QPR lose their heads if they lose their heads. I think that Andre Gray is out. I think Dykes is still out. So I think
so.
that up front is Charlie Austin, which will be very interesting. And they've still got the likes of Elias Chair, Stefan Johansson. Honestly, QPR have had a bit of a nightmare the last few weeks. They've dropped a lot of points, and we did predict them to finish in the playoffs. And the playoff hunt right now is absolutely ridiculous. It's going to twist and turn every single week. What I will say about QPR is that Mark Warburton has got them in a stage now where they're actually playing some decent stuff. Ever since the second half of last season, they've really got their rhythm back, and we haven't seen that sort of QPR since the days when they got into the playoffs. I think they beat Derby in the playoffs and they went up, but then they went back down, and they haven't really been in and around the top 6 since that relegation. So we're finally seeing a QPR team who are trying to push back into the Premier League. Let's talk about Fulham. John Mikel Seri on Wednesday night, Tuesday night, running the show. Well, not quite running the show, but he was decent against England, despite losing 3-0. Obviously, Robinson, I don't know whether he's going to play or not, Joe. Let me hear your predicted lineup. Wilson, of course, didn't play their second friendly for Wales, nor did Williams, so they'll be fresh. And maybe a bit of TC, you just never know.
Yeah, Robinson's an interesting one because he played a little bit later than the other guys. He's had the shortest turnaround time and probably the longest distance to come back as well. So I wouldn't play Robinson in this one. I feel like Nico Williams and Wilson will be back fine. Seri's been back in training. They've pictured him. Cabano's the one I'm really hoping for. He came on briefly in DR Congo's match where they lost to Morocco. He came on with about 5-10 minutes left, I believe, which shows he's back to you would presume full fitness. So I'm going to presume for the sake of this that they are all okay. But I wouldn't play Robinson. So I would go with Rodak in goal. I would go with Tete at right back and then move Williams to left back, which I am such an advocate of. I really want to see it. I know that Williams and Wilson have a really good link up, but Williams is a good player. Wilson, I think he'll do just fine with Tete as he was earlier in the season. And I agree with people online that Tete is probably the best fullback in the league. He shouldn't be on the bench, and there's a way of getting him into the team. Let's try it. Maybe that's harsh on Joe Bryan. I don't know, but I haven't been fully impressed with him when he has stepped in this season. Although it is worth noting very quickly, when Bryan's played this season, we haven't lost, and I believe that includes any substitute appearance as well. So quite an interesting one.
Oh, interesting.
Midfield, I'd go with Reed and Kearney. Was impressed with Seri the other night, but I wouldn't start him in this one. I want a bit more creativity, and I don't think Seri offered that when he played against Barnsley, and I'm conscious of a similar thing happening here. I want TC, Carvalho in front, and then the usual front three if Cabano's back. If Cabano isn't back, I want to point out that I'd go with Caballero replacing him.
Oh, wow.
Not Bobby. I was impressed with Caballero before the international break. I thought he looked bright against, I think it was Huddersfield, then Peterborough. Then he also looked quite good against Swansea and would have been West Brom when he came on as well. So that's what I'd go with.
That's really interesting you said, because I was under the impression that if Cabano doesn't start, Bobby D. Cordova-Reid just slots in and will play in that front three position. I would love to see Cabano start with Wilson Mitrovic. That would be the dream. In terms of your point about Seri, I'm not sure. It's a big game. I'm not doubting Seri's qualities here. I'm just saying, is this the game for him? And you're right. We're going to need creative spark. And TC, just sitting behind Carvalho, and he can make those runs forward and sort of link up with the front three, with Reed just sitting there and holding the base of midfield, could really work for us. But then again, Seri picks out a pass. He creates. He out of nowhere, he can feed Wilson in. He can feed Cabano in. He can play to Mitrovic. So they both got their qualities. I'd probably stick with Seri and bring off Kearney if need be. But yeah, interesting. And then the left back, right back situation. I am dying to see what Williams is like at left back with Tete and the right back, because you're right. Tete's a complete waste on the bench. He's such a talent, and like if we were to go up, I want Tete in and around the squad. Definitely, he's very very good in my eyes. And then of course you've got Tosin and Tim Ream, and then of course Rodak in goal. I'm really nervous because obviously we haven't played for a while, and the performance against Barnsley and West Brom weren't up to scratch. A late equaliser, from Wilson to get us a point at a very struggling Barnsley team, and then the West Brom game we just didn't turn up. Absolutely poor performance. I thought the international break came at the exact right time for us. We do need to pick ourselves back up against QPR. How do you see this one going in terms of a score prediction?
So I'm just thinking back to earlier in the season when we played QPR after the international break against Coventry, and it was the worst performance of the season by a country mile. We had a couple of weeks off, and we came back, and other than a 30-minute spell at the start of the second half, we really, really just took the game to QPR and took them apart. And that's when QPR were in very good form. I'm expecting a similar reaction from us, and regardless of how QPR play, obviously it'll be tougher if they turn up, as I'm sure they will. They normally do for these games, even if the final scorelines haven't showed it a lot of the time. I'm expecting a tough game, but I'm expecting Fulham to, if we perform like we did in that QPR game earlier in the season, when we needed a reaction, when we needed a result, and it was, I think, higher pressure then, because at that point we were slipping down the table. QPR were just below us. They could overtake us with a win. And it was a bit of a marker. I'm expecting a similar performance. And if we do that, I think we'll win. I do think it's going to be a tough game. I think it might be quite high scoring, actually. But I'm going to go with a maybe slightly more realistic scoreline of 2-1 Fulham.
2-1, yeah. I think I'll echo that. And I think it could be coming from behind.
Okay.
I think we could get off to a poor start. You never know. QPR be onto us. Packed out away end. Please kick to that away end second half, Fulham.
Yeah.
If you get the toss. Then, yeah, I think Fulham could maybe get themselves back into the game. Mitro header, 1-1 for half time, easy dubs. And then second half, Cabano cuts in, lays it back, and it's like a shot from Reed that takes a deflection, falls into the path of Mitrovic, who rounds the keeper.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
slots home. Like really well composed finish from Mitrovic. So yeah, 2-1 Fulham. We were going to talk wider championship chat today, but actually it's probably worth just yourselves
Waiting.
looking at the table
Yeah.
and going, oh, this is the state of play. And then we'll just talk about it on Monday because things are going to change because
Yeah,
they've
I
been the
mean,
same over the last
the
couple of
way
weeks.
the playoff picture is at the moment, we could be talking about Luton today,
Yeah.
who are in third currently. You know, they could easily fall away. They could easily stay in third for the rest of the season. It's just so tight at the moment. QPR could go back into playoffs if things go their way, or their season could be looking effectively over by the end of Saturday. It's amazing how quickly it can change. So yeah, I do agree with you. It'll probably be worth talking about slightly later in the season.
In my opinion, this is the best time of the season. When you've just finished the March international break, you have the run into the end of the season. You've
Yeah,
got the Champions League, quarters, semis, finals, Europa League, Conference League, same thing, playoffs, and it's just everything's brilliant. And of course, there's still questions to be answered about who's going to win the Premier League, who's going to go down in the Premier League. Same with the Championship, League One, League Two as well. It's going to be a phenomenal. And of course, we've got QPR, then we've got Middlesbrough, then we've got Coventry. It's a nice 3-game week. And
yeah,
we will be back, I suppose, probably on Monday because
yeah.
Middlesbrough's Wednesday. We want to cram in as many Jack and Joe shows in as possible to talk about all the football. And then, of course, if we beat Middlesbrough, we should go live to
I think so.
preview that the Coventry game. If we beat Middlesbrough and it turns up we're up, then we're live with beer in my hands
Yeah,
and your
yeah.
hands.
A
Surely.
lot of beer. Yeah,
Andre, surely.
yeah. I mean, a bit of champagne. You know, let's get really
Yeah.
Fulham about it.
Mm.
It's weird, isn't it? Because after this next video, when we preview Middlesbrough, after that, at any point, it is possible for us to go up, and we don't know when it's going to be. You know, I think it would take quite a crazy. I mean, look at the tweet, as Jack said, quite a crazy set of results for it to be the Middlesbrough game. But I think that Easter period, whether it's Coventry, Derby, or Preston, I think it's at some point then. I just hope that we're all there.
I think there could be a situation, Joe, where we play Coventry at 3 o'clock on Sunday and we are live at 7:30, 8 o'clock that night with beers
Yeah,
and talking
yeah,
about us up. It could be.
it could
Or
be.
obviously Derby and then we just go live on the Saturday, the Easter Saturday,
Yeah,
because obviously it's a late kickoff. You never
yeah.
know. I'm just getting too giddy now.
Oh, it is exciting. I just really hope that because, and there's a good tweet on this by Cottage Analytica on Twitter,
Brilliant
that
account, by the way.
yeah, fantastic account, definitely worth a follow. It's annoying that, as I said earlier, because of the fact that we could go up relatively soon, Sky have obviously moved most of our games to different dates. The Coventry one, weirdly, not on Sky, but has been moved anyway.
Yeah, that's
Because
weird.
we're playing after the teams below us, obviously, we're promoted at this point when either we hit a certain amount of points or the teams below us are no longer able to reach that amount of points. So we could be promoted just on a random day when we're not playing. That's like Luton failed to beat someone, for example, or Forest failed to beat someone. And I hope that doesn't happen.
I am right in saying that a week on Monday, so Monday night's game is Crystal Palace, they host Arsenal. The next Monday, Huddersfield Town host Luton. And that could
Wow,
be, it could be the one. I
that could be the
just don't
one.
know. But I'm sure people will put on Twitter, people are very good with this, of when and when they can't go up. Like, what's the day? How many points do we need now? It changes every week. Joe,
One tip from us should definitely be before we go, keep an
oh
eye
yeah.
on Forest, because at the moment, even though they're not up there, Forest are the team that can reach the highest number of points
Oh,
that are currently not in the top two. So basically, as it stands, follow Forest. If they lose or something like that, then follow the next team. Forest have got a couple of games in hand, effectively. So the scenario where we can go up against Middlesbrough, we would have to beat QPR and Middlesbrough, and Forest would have to lose to Blackpool and forgetting the other team they're
is it
playing,
Sheffield United? No, it's not Sheffield United.
whoever they're playing midweek,
Whoever it is. I think it's
whoever it is.
QPR. No, it's
It could be
not. It's not
QPR.
QPR. It's not QPR.
Oh well. Anyway, they would have to lose their next two. We'd have to win our next two.
I think
And
it's
then other
Peterborough,
results
actually.
would have to go in our way. So it's one of those where keep an eye on them, then work out who the next one is, because it's going to be so exciting. But I just hope, as you say, Jack, that it happens on a day where it's in our own hands. We know that if we win, we go up, because
Yeah, that'd be
not
nice.
not to be like, spoiled or anything, but it would just be a bit naff, wouldn't it, to get promoted? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's amazing to get promoted, but it's just a bit crap, isn't it, to get
When you're
promoted
not at
when
the game.
you're not playing.
Mm.
Yeah,
And it does happen. It does happen.
yeah,
But these things are just, this is football. This is what happens. Worth noting, of course, Bournemouth play Bristol City tomorrow. So I mean, like, if they win, then whatever. If they don't win, then obviously we're one step closer as well. So keep an eye on Bournemouth's result. Hopefully we can clinch the title as more than anything. I'm starting my celebrations tonight. My mum is retiring, so I've got my mum's retirement
fantastic.
party tonight, which will be great. Free bar, free pizza, happy days. And that is it from us today. We've gone over 25 minutes. We want to get our teeth stuck into championship chat next week when we know the results of everything over the weekend. And of course, we could be one step closer, Joe, to the promised land.
Fingers crossed. I feel like this is a big week now, because a lot of people have been nervous about these games. They're 3 tricky games. I feel like Middlesbrough away in particular, they're very good at the Riverside under Chris Wilder. Let's see what we're made of. If we want to piss the league, as everyone's saying, as I'm saying, then let's go and win these 3. And we're very capable of doing that. So let's see if we can, because we had a nasty blip just before the international break. We're far enough ahead that it hasn't really cost us. But let's make sure that we can get back on the right side of the form table and really turn it on. Let's get promotion. Let's win the league. Let's get up.
Just 2 things really quickly before we go. The 5 substitutions being voted into play for Premier League next season is very annoying, and it's just like, we're back in the Premier League, and these sort of things are going to happen. Well, we're not there yet, of course. And breaking news while we've been recording about 15 minutes ago, Mike Ashley very interested in completing a takeover of Derby, despite talks with administration breaking down alleged no contact for 2 months. So can Mike Ashley save Derby County? Who knows? I wonder how fans will feel about that. I reckon in their position, Derby, they'll probably take anything right now.
Yeah.
We do hope the best for Derby County, of course.
Yeah. 100%. Don't want to see any club go down. My granddad supports Derby, and really hoping that they can get a positive resolution to that, because it's awful how one person's decisions can ruin a legacy. Derby are a very famous club, so fingers crossed that can get sorted. And Mike Ashley, he's a pretty poor owner from previous experience, but if it means they stay in business and they can start to get back on track, I think it's worth doing.
How satisfying that we end the conversation of how we started it, talking about owners and decisions. That is really satisfying from a presenter point of view. Joe Sanderson, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jack. Fingers crossed we both get nice haircuts.
Yeah, hopefully they do a job. No hats next week.
We'll both be in hats. Yeah,
unless we wear like a promotion hat. Where no, we can't get promoted until Middlesbrough. If you're going to QPR, be sensible, of course. If you've got an upper tier ticket, go in the upper tier. If you've got a lower tier ticket, then go in the lower tier. It's quite simple. Obviously, I don't want to sound like I just sounded like a complete job's worth there, but just be sensible. Don't run on the pitch or anything. Don't get yourself banned for the big games. And Joe, we'll see you Monday then, I suppose.
Looking forward to it. Thanks everyone for watching, and enjoy QPR if you're going.
Yeah, enjoy it, guys. Let's go Fulham. Come on, Fulham. We'll see you at the Kind Prince Foundation Stadium for the big old SW6 derby.